Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As much as I said in the last video that would be the last video, and as much as Spotify has tried to kill off the CarThing, it just won't die. And that's mostly thanks to the developer community and some interesting projects that have been going on in the background lately. So why are we showing this again in 2024? Well, with all of the things going on, I've been inspired to do one more project and move this to a new location on the desk and see what functionality it's capable of now outside of the Spotify official ecosystem. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before I started, I had a couple of things ready to go. My Spotify CarThing, of course, a USB Type-C cable to hook up to my computer, and a couple of websites. DeskThing.app, Thingify.tools, as well as Terbium.app. Having these open and ready to go made everything a little bit more streamlined and go by a little bit quicker as opposed to having to fumble around to reach for them. Okay, so now on DeskThing.app, you're going to download whichever flavor of DeskThing you need. Since we're on a silicone-based Mac, we're going to go ahead and download that. It should only take a couple of seconds, and then you're just going to open that location and install based on how you install. On Windows, it's a little bit different, but obviously since we're using a Mac, it's just pretty much drag and drop into the applications folder, just like this. Okay, so since we're done with that, let's go ahead and get the CarThing ready to boot into basically kind of like a recovery mode like you would do on an Android or on an iOS device. You're going to hold the first button and the fourth button down while you plug in your USB Type-C cable. So just kind of claw it or whatever you need to do and then plug the cable in. And you're going to know it worked if you don't see anything come up on the screen, as opposed to normally you would see, the Spotify CarThing logo. So just hold it down for about 10 seconds or so. And if you don't see anything, then you should be good to proceed to the next step. Okay, so now that we have the DeskThing ready to receive a image and we have DeskThing stationed in the applications folder, we're ready to proceed to the next step. So at this point, we're going to get ready to open Thingify.tools and download the version of the firmware we need to push to the CarThing to get it to work with DeskThing on the desktop. So the first step is obviously going to be opening Thingify.tools, which we already have open. And then you're going to go to Things Lab and you're going to find the version of the firmware you want to push. You can use the most recent one. You don't need to use the unbricked version if your CarThing is not in a quote unquote brick state, which Spotify would have put it in prior to all of these different versions of the firmware coming out. So you can just download the most recent one. If you're on Windows, I'd say just use the regular one. So under Things Labs, of course, go to the most recent version. You can download the regular version in most instances. However, if that doesn't work, you may want to try this Nordisk version, which I actually ended up having to do just due to the CarThing not staying connected. Once you download the version you choose, you're going to go ahead and open up Terbium. And you can load this archive straight into Terbium. The first thing you're going to do is hit next when you get to this screen, because your device should already be ready and plugged in. Now you're going to click done and then click connect. You should see a screen pop up. However, if it doesn't, you may have to hit connect a second time. If you're on Windows, you may need to take a few extra steps, but since we're doing this on the Mac, we can continue with the regular instructions. So you may have to click connect again if you don't see a little pop-up come up. Just checking to make sure my permissions are set right. So we're going to hit connect again. And there we go. We see this little pop-up here. The first time you see it, it's just going to be this little GC chip pop up, you hit connect. You're going to get this error and then you hit connect again. And this time you should see the AndLogic device pop up. You hit connect. And now we are ready to load the firmware we just downloaded from Thingify.tools. So we're going to leave it as the archive, although you can unzip it and do it as a folder. You're going to navigate to wherever you downloaded that archive at, and then you're just going to load it as the zip it is. And you're going to hit next. And at this point, it's pushing the image. Terbium is pushing the image from the file to the CarThing. This can take a couple of minutes, anywhere from 4 to 6 in my experience. And then after this, you will be ready to get DeskThing set up and going. So while this is running, we can go ahead and do what we need to do with DeskThing in the background, because this, like I said, takes anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and open applications, and you should already have the DeskThing application installed. If you try to run it, you should get an error message that it can't run. And obviously it's just the Apple security, just trying to protect you from opening an application that shouldn't be ran. But what we're gonna do is actually right click and go down to right here and actually open the command prompt from here. And then what you can do is just level up to the applications folder, or you can just type in applications in the into a terminal. And once we're at the application level, you're going to go ahead and paste in these commands right here, which I will put in the video description. And this will allow the DeskThing application to run. It basically disables the Apple security that's preventing the application from running. I'll also paste the commands here on the screen so you guys can follow along as well. And then once you hit enter, you're gonna need to type in your password. And then once you type in your password, you should be good to run DeskThing. And again, this just basically allows, a third-party application to run that is probably unsigned or doesn't have like a signature that most manufacturers use. So once you get your password typed in and hit enter, you can close out the terminal, and then you should be good to open the DeskThing's application. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and open DeskThing's. Let's move this over so you guys can see it. And we need to reboot our DeskThing. So at this point, you just need to unplug and plug the USB-C cable from the back of the CarThing to get it to reboot. And once that's done, you should see it start to come up with the Spotify screen like it normally would. And actually in this instance, it's already saying Thing Labs. So you know that the firmware was pushed to it correctly. So now we're just waiting on it to finish booting. There's the Spotify logo, and we should see it come up into the console here in a bit. You see it says welcome to CarThing. And this screen just kind of shows you that the CarThing has been unbricked, so to speak, and can now be connected to via your computer. However, we do appear to be having issues with connectivity here. So we'll try to configure it, and we see it's running the command, still no response. So we'll try to restart Chromium and give it a couple of seconds to try to pick that up. Okay, so it did pick that up, and now we see it's trying to load in the DeskThing. Okay, so at this point I noticed that I had an issue with my OBS stream. So I stopped the recording. I also had to do a little bit of troubleshooting because DeskThing was not recognizing my CarThing properly. But I realized I was not getting an IP address up here and it wasn't showing the correct port. So what I did basically was just deleted the DeskThing.app from the applications folder and reinstalled it and went through that process. And as you can see now, it's showing up properly and connecting. So if you do run into an issue like that, you may want to just delete and start from that step over again. That was the quickest way I could find to resolve. That got me up and running almost immediately. I was able to hit configure and connect the CarThing to the server, which is the PC. So that part went a lot faster once I just deleted and started over. So just a little bit of a warning in case you guys run into that. So now that we are connected to the CarThing, you can do a couple of things like ping. You can look at the apps that are installed on it. These are the apps I've already installed: the Spotify app, an image viewer, and basically a weather widget, which I'll show you guys a little bit later. So the one thing about the Spotify app, you have to have premium to get it to work right, because you'll need to go into the developer menu and basically create an API key in order for it to work. So all of the other apps I've run across, everything in the menu is there for you, with the exception, like I said, of the Spotify app. Here's the weather widget. I went ahead and put in my latitude and longitude and set it to Fahrenheit. And then you have to save that information. Once you do that, it will update on the CarThing to show the correct weather and time and the other functions in this application. Of course, I have my latitude and longitude grayed out, but that would be what you would need to do in order to get weather waves set up, which was actually the one I preferred a little bit more. There's another weather widget in the applications menu. You just go to downloads to get to the applications, but I felt this one had a little bit better feel, and we'll show you guys once it's fully set up, because you can see what's now playing. There's a little ribbon at the bottom for your regular Spotify functions and then the weather. But first we have to get Spotify set up to work. So I'll show you guys how we went about doing that as well. So we're going to close this out and go into the Spotify app. And you'll see in the Spotify app, there's an active request. And when you click on that drop down, there's actually a link to go to the Spotify developer dashboard to create this API key. So you're going to need the client ID, the client secret, and the redirect URL. I already have an app, so I'm going to create a new one. And you can just call it DeskThing, Spotify, CarThing, whatever. The app name is really arbitrary. It's just something for you to reference, as well as the app description. Neither of those are all that important. You do want to make sure you have the API checkbox checked at the bottom, as well as having the redirect URL, which you can get from the other screen in the DeskThing application. Those are going to be the more important things that you want to make sure are checked, as well as I understand and agree with Spotify developer terms and services. Once you have all of that set up, you can go ahead and hit save. And see, it's going to force you to add the details that are necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this URL. And really, it's just the local host, the port, and then the callback to Spotify. So you're just going to copy that and then paste that into your browser. And like I said, you still have to do the description here. So it's just you can type DeskThing again or whatever you want. Again, that's arbitrary. It's just something for you to remember. And then hit save. So now you have an active API key, and it'll show you who's connected, although you don't really need that. So go into settings. You're going to copy the client ID and paste that into the corresponding box. And then you're going to do the exact same thing for the client secret. And then make sure you have the redirect URL typed in and hit save. And that's it. Now Spotify is pretty much ready to work. Of course, you got to agree to give DeskThing, the API you made, access. You see the success window, and this should now work on your CarThing. So as we can see, it's coming up. So you see that it's saying waiting for song and loading song name. So we're just going to open Spotify just to see what happens. Just play some music real quick. So now we see the song is playing. However, we do not see the album artwork. So this is a known bug with this version of the Spotify app and DeskThing, more specifically DeskThing. So of course, you guys know I went down the rabbit hole, did some digging to figure out how to fix this. Of course, whenever you're working with something that's, developer driven by the community, you're going to run into bugs and fixes. But the amazing thing about it is there's some great support in this community to keep this device up and running. So of course, some intrepid user figured out how to fix it. Kudos to this person, because they they definitely did a lot more homework than I was probably willing to put in. But nonetheless, they found a solution. So we're going to go ahead and show you guys how to do that now. But this is the weather waves app I was talking about. And this is what I meant by it showing the weather and the time and everything. Okay, so first thing first, let's go ahead and make sure we close out the DeskThing application. Not 100% sure you have to, but I did. You're going to right click, show package contents. And you're going to drill down to contents, resources, app.asar unpacked, node modules, image, sharp dash lib vips, Darwin, etc., and library. And then from here, you should see another library folder. This one right here. You're going to right click and copy that. And then you're going to navigate back up to contents/framework. So you're going to go ahead and go into this framework folder right here. So it should be the second folder structure after contents, and you're just going to paste it in here. And then you can go ahead and close this out and open the DeskThing application back. And it should open just as it normally did. You shouldn't notice anything different. Just make sure your CarThing is connected. And there it goes, it's connected. So from here, you should be able to see album content. You should be able to see the album artwork again. So we're gonna go ahead and just show you a quick snapshot of it fixed now and how this looks. The developer said they were looking at fixing this in the next version, so probably 10.4. But if you're on 10.3, that's how you go about fixing that. And now we can see the weather, the time, and the album art, just like the original CarThing application was intended to work. And last but not least, you guys see I have this mounted under the desk. So this is actually another remix of our DeskThing doc that I made in my second video. Well, I'm calling this one DeskThing 3 since I have a lot more going on my desk these days. I actually took a version of the DeskThing 2 that I made in Tinkercad, basically sliced the back off of it. So this is version 2 and 3. So it was still a little bit thick and a little bit tall, so I trimmed it down a little bit more. I just printed it flat. Of course, if you print it with supports, you won't see all of these print lines, but I really didn't care. This is more of a functional piece for me. I may one day print it and use the wasted supports just for, a better, cleaner look, but I don't really care. It's just going under the desk. But I'm going to go ahead and put this up on Thingiverse and probably the other STL sites. And I'm going to post a link for it down below just in case you guys want to download it, remix it, do whatever you want with it as usual. But yeah, so I'm happy with the results of this, and hopefully you guys will be too. Okay, everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys liked it and learned something. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notifications as I post new content. See you guys on the next one. Later.